The plugin of the week is Vitamin by Waves, and this is a plugin that is essentially what they call it is a multiband harmonic enhancer. Sometimes people will also see the term exciter, and they're not the first company to come out with a multiband exciter. You can see that in isotope plugins, and there are other companies that have them. This is the one that is made by Waves, and it's more than just or like when you get into harmonic enhancing, what you're talking about is harmonic distortion, right? So you're talking about harmonic distortion characteristics. There is some equalization that's added in, right? So we have some equalization going on, and we have compression. So in many ways, when I do these sidechain like parallel compression things where I'm overdriving and really compressing instruments, this is similar. This is exactly what this is kind of doing, but it has a lot of really, really, really additional cool features. So rather than having 3 plugins set up to create distortion, equalization, and compression and put it in large amounts, what I can do is I could spread that into a multi-band form where I now can bring up all of them at once on different sliders. And that's the basic idea. So what we have here on Vitamin is an input control and an output control. So that just basically keeps us from clipping, right? So we can go there in terms of the basic gain. We have a direct fader. So this gives us a control. So if you put this on the insert, like right now I just have it on the insert of the master fader or the master channel. And maybe I'll move it around. So we'll see. And so on the whole mix, then I have the direct sound here, the dry mix, and then I can mix in the Vitamin or the tonal coloration channels. Now, each band can be soloed or bypassed, right? So I don't have to use all the bands. I have individual sliders and a master control, which will bring them all up at once, okay? And so I have solos and bypasses, and I can have control over the crossover points. So I have 5 different areas. So below 90, 90 to 500, 500 to 2.5, 2.5 to 9.3K, and then above that. And I can filter and move those around. So that's also really cool, and a master control. Then there's a punch control, and this is really, really cool because what this does is it allows how much harmonic distortion goes in. It's like from 0 to 5, or 0 to 5. And what that does is it determines how aggressive the attacks are going to pop through, like how much of this is going to be applied to the attacks. And that's very cool. So if I set it at 0, it will kind of be very soft in terms of the compression, and it will add the presence and harmonic distortion you're looking for without adding the aggressiveness. And if you want it to be aggressive, then you push the punch control. What it also has, which is very, very cool, is it also has a master width control. So you could basically go on a band by band basis and mono up all frequencies below 90 cycles if you want to. Or between 90 and 500, I can actually now pull this in and I can mono it up, or I can widen. And it does it not only to the Vitamin fader, right, but also to the direct, so that you don't get any kind of mixed up phase signals, right? So if you're widening a particular frequency band and it's stretching it, you don't want the dry signal to be center and the wet signal to be split out. If you do it that way, then what you can do is you can just take and pull down the direct all the way, turn it off, bring up your master and put it on ascend, right, and return type of thing, and then you could mix it and balance it out and create the effect that way, if that makes sense. Right, so that's the basic idea. So, and I have a master control that allows me to spread everything hard wide. So it's like a mid-side processing where you're pulling out the middle and opening up the side channels, which makes it phasier. Or you could make it mono, which basically takes the left, right, and sort of collapses it to the middle. And again, to do it on a band by band basis, it allows us to take on even an individual sound. We can split up an instrument and we can make, the high frequency energy very airy and spread out and wide, right? And then make the low end energy very mono and focused, right? So we could take an individual sound and focus individual elements this way, even if we don't use any of the Vitamin stuff, right? So this is really, really cool. It's a very powerful tool that you could use for mastering and all kinds of other fun stuff. So the first thing that I would do is I would start by bringing the master channel down here, because when we add in the Vitamin faders along with the direct faders, then the direct signal, then we're going to have added gain, right? Because this is sort of like a parallel compression, harmonic distortion, equalization thing, right? So let's just kind of start with this. So here, right, so you can hear it. This is with them all even. And then if I crank down my punch, it's softer. And if I bring the punch up, right, so you can hear how it brings out the aggressiveness, the attack. Right, very cool, right? So I'm going to go with a middle setting. And now if I want to bring out like high mid, right, focus, then you can see here that that's what I have going on. If I want to bring out some low frequency energy, maybe dip the low mids a little bit, right, I can actually focus this where I want it to be. And so if I want to, I want to take this and I'm going to swing this down and make this a little more 2 to 6K-ish, right? So I'm going to slide that down. So now this guy is affecting just frequencies above 6K. And if I want this to affect more low end, I can make this more sub energy. And kind of make that pump a little bit more. Or I can bring it up and make it a little bit more warmth. And then I can take this and I can globally now with my master channel here kind of play with this. And mix it in perhaps a little more tastefully. Right, and you could hear how, and this is just like across the whole mix, right? So when you start to break down and work within individual groupings of instruments, right? So if I just was working with drums, and I were to make this punchier, right? And the basic thing here, right? And that's just like now mixing it in. So now I can just put it in, and that's what's really cool because it's kind of like an equalizer control for my hypercompression, if you will. And then I'm blending it right in with the direct signal all at once. So now I'm bringing down the direct signal mostly because the input gain here going in is pretty high. But when you start to break down individual groupings of instruments, then you're very, very cool. And then I could just literally mono up the whole thing. Mono it up or just move it all out to the sides. And you hear like how the drums disappear and the bass really sticks out, right? And I can option click on there to set it back to normal, right? So I have this width control, all of these individual faders. I can bypass bands, I can solo bands, so I can really focus, right? Maybe I want that snare drum to come out more in this band here, right? So I'm gonna, the snap of that, I'm gonna bring that in. And then you can use these solo things to create really cool effects. You know, so maybe if, you know, for the drums, maybe I want to start out with this automated where the drums, right, just as an effect, right? So even in the mix, I could have this down here, right, as like sort of the introduction to my mix, and then, you know, sort of like what we did on the mix map, and then we could just, you know, undo that, and then all of a sudden it would come in full frequency. So it's pretty wild, you know, that you can create all kinds of hyper compressed, individual effects, widening, basically parallel compression, harmonic distortion types of characteristics with controls on individual bands. I could probably do like 100 demos here with all different kinds of sounds on this. It's a very, 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 very cool plugin, extremely flexible. And once you dig into like automating the different parameters and just different ways that you could use it, very powerful, right, as a plugin. So this is a new one by Waves called Vitamin, just recently released. So at very least, download a demo and check it out. And after you get to that, then buy the damn thing, because it's be a really, really valuable tool for mixing and mastering as well. So you can apply it there as well. Even if you're just using width controls and just some basic balance things, can be extremely helpful. All right, there we have it. The Vitamin plugin by Waves.